Greetings and welcome back to Room 303 in Sophomore English. We are in the MyPerspectives volume, unit number 1. We're on page 102, Ishmael Reed's poem, Beware, Do Not Read This Poem. Now, there are few poems that have such an immediate attraction from their title to make you want to read the poem because you're told you better be careful about reading this poem. Now, we are working, of course, in Unit 1. The topic here is Inside the Nightmare, on the whole notion of the scary, the frightening, and the like. It's interesting to ask, can a poem be scary? So I would start there, write that down. Can a poem be scary? Is it possible for a poem to be scary? Now, no doubt, in the history of poetry, at the narrative level, we have some examples of some really scary moments in poetry. There are moments of fright, for example, when Odysseus goes into the underworld in the Odyssey. There are moments of scare, for example, when we're reading Milton's Paradise Lost or Dante's Divine Commedia, especially the Inferno, where Dante the Pilgrim takes those scary journeys down into the underworld. But I'm going to guess that most of you don't think about poetry as being something intentionally designed to kind of scare you. And here we'll be playing with Reed. We'll start with a little bit of background information. We'll read the poem, and then we'll come back to work through our annotative work.
Beware, do not read this poem by Ishmael Reed. Poetry. Background.
Page 101.
In the first stanza of the poem, the word thriller appears in italic type to indicate it is a reference to a fictional television show. The poem contains abbreviations: ABT for about, YR for your, and FRM for from. About the poet. Ishmael Reed, born 1938, is a prolific author who has written novels, poems, plays, and essays in a variety of different styles and genres. He was born in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and raised in Buffalo, New York. Reed's works have been translated into many languages and published in a number of notable magazines and newspapers. Reed is the recipient of numerous honors for his work, including a Guggenheim Foundation Fellowship and a MacArthur Foundation Genius Award. Beware, do not read this poem.
Page 102.
By Ishmael Reed. Tonight, Thriller was about an old woman, so vain she surrounded herself with many mirrors. It got so bad that finally she locked herself indoors, and her whole life became the mirrors. One day the villagers broke into her house, but she was too swift for them. She disappeared into a mirror. Each tenant who bought the house after that lost a loved one to the old woman in the mirror. First a little girl, then a young woman, then the young woman's husband. The hunger of this poem is legendary. It has taken in many victims. Back off from this poem. It has drawn in your feet. Back off from this poem. It has drawn in your legs. Back off from this poem. It is a greedy mirror. You are into this poem. From the waist down, nobody can hear you, can they? This poem has had you up to here. Belch. This poem ain't got no manners. You can't call out from this poem. Relax now, and go with this poem. Move, and roll on to this poem. Do not resist this poem. This poem has your eyes. This poem has his head. This poem has his arms. This poem has his fingers. This poem has his fingertips. This poem is the reader, and the reader, this poem.
Mark it.
Statistic. The U.S. Bureau of Missing Persons reports that in 1968, over 100,000 people disappeared, leaving no solid clues, nor trace, only a space in the lives of their friends.
What makes this poem interesting is the way it has 3 parts. Notice it will begin by commenting on a fictitious TV show called Thriller, where you have a woman who escapes by looking, if you want to call it escaping, by looking or disappearing into a mirror. And then notice at line 19, all of a sudden, we're to the actual poem that you're reading. Notice the hunger of this poem is legendary. And you go, oh, okay, so now we're playing games. And then at the very end of the poem, after he says this poem is the reader and the reader is the poem, providing a statistic about missing persons of 100,000 of them that disappeared in the year 1968. By the way, notice that we have some poetic techniques being used. Anaphoria, that repetition of this poem has, this poem has, this poem has, starting at lines 37, 38, 39. Notice the use of spacing as well at the very end, the last two lines of the poem, which will produce a certain kind of effect. This will remind us of our study of course, the poetry of Emily Dickinson, who will play a similar game, often using the dash. Now, notice the immediacy of the poem with the first word, tonight, as in right here, right now. In large ways, you're drawn into the poem as the poem speaks directly to you. Notice the use of the pronoun you in line 27. You are into this poem. Now, of course, that's fascinating because idiomatically we often talk about something that we're into, that is to say, we're kind of interested in. Notice, though, he begins by pointing out that this woman got into the mirror, which is obviously going to be a little bit a supernatural idea, right? And yet, there is such an idea of looking into the mirror so much because, for example, you'll remember Nausicaa from the ancient Greek and Roman stories, so impressed with themselves that they just kept looking at themselves in the pool of water. And we call these individuals today narcissistic, so into it. But notice here, you are, the poet, the speaker says, you're into this poem, and then all of a sudden you're being eaten up by the poem from the waist down. The poem has already eaten you up. And then notice the irony of belch. And then we're back to it. This poem ain't got no manners. And of course, notice even the spelling of ain't is inappropriate. So what Reed is playing with here is, of course, euphemisms across the board. Breaking the rules, if you will, of even English syntax or grammar as he writes the poem itself. In other words, this is a poem that tries to what? Break all the rules. And in the process, try to attract you to the possibility of being captured, right, by a text. So summarize at level 1 what you think's going on here. At level 2A, what do you think is the point, really, of this poem? What is it that Reed is actually suggesting about the power of great texts? The way in which great texts can serve almost like mirrors that will swallow us up, we might say? At 2B, well, obviously, you can write down all kinds of interesting poetic techniques that are being used here. Again, anaphoria, that repetition of the first word of a line to get a certain kind of rhythm. This poem has your eyes. This poem has your head. Think about the truth of that if you are reading the poem. In other words, the poem has somehow captured your vision. You're reading, right? Got your eyes. In other words, while you're actually physically reading this, you're not seeing the person sitting behind you, for example, because your eyes are directed here. Notice this poem has your head, suggests that, well, yeah, your head to the degree of your mind. In other words, you're thinking about it. In other words, the poem has a fascinating way of capturing you or drawing you in so that arms, fingers, and even fingertips that are mentioned next will start to kind of mess with your mind as you become ready for the final penultimate line. This poem is the reader, and the reader, this poem. Which leads us to 3A. I want you to write down Aristotle, the great Greek philosopher, in his classic text called Poetics, which was actually a treatment of not poetry, but actually drama or plays. In that text, Aristotle made this interesting argument. He said, let me tell you what great art does. He was talking about tragic plays, okay? Think about, for example, Antigone or Oedipus Rex. That's the play he was talking about, Sophocles' classic. You can think about it from even a movie if you want to. And this is what he said. Great art is like a mirror that's held up. And the people watching the performance look into the mirror and they see themselves reflected back. And what Aristotle said is, the great art is always the one that's the clearest reflection or mirror. Notice how Reed is playing the game here. Jot down how you see that playing out when he says this poem is the reader and the reader this poem. Finally, how are you going to own a text like this at 3B? What is for you your response to this poem? Was the title for you provocative? And is this text designed to scare you or to enlighten you? Or maybe both? Thank you.